Okay, so now we've got some banners happening. So I've got one that's a photo, one that's a 2D graphic. Uh, Both of them are about the same size. Uh, I want to actually start to save them so they're the right size for web. First thing that I did last time, well, the last thing I did last time that really I just like to remind you of is the need to really save it as a Photoshop file. If you're working in Photoshop or a high quality file in whatever program you're working in, whether that's Photoshop or PaintShop Pro or a GIMP or Fireworks or whatever software you're using, just be aware that it's a really good idea to keep a high quality, full version of your original image, just so that if you need to go back to it and change something, you can. If you need to resave it, you've got that high quality original. You're not having to edit a compressed version, because once you do that, you're going to lose quality. So it's a really good idea to save your originals. So we've got two different types of banners here, and this allows us to have a look at how we might work with different types of images. So first thing I'm going to start off with is looking at my photo banner, and be aware that the compression that I'm using to save these video tutorials is going to actually be a little bit rough on some of these images, so you won't necessarily get to compare them as well as what I'm describing here. So just keep that in mind. So we've got original, optimized 2 up and 4 up views that we can work with. I tend to stick to 4 up view just because it allows me to compare between my original and a couple of other versions or formats that I set up to see which one looks best before I actually save it. So we've got a few different formats we can work with. We've got JPEG, so I'm going to do a JPEG high quality, JPEG low quality, and a GIF at about the same, some kind of medium to low quality. So we can do it something like that. And just for the purpose of this, let's go in and zoom in. So here we go, just so we can see what they look like. So now you can see here that if we look at the text, we can see that this one's actually looking the worst so far, which is our low JPEG. In terms of file size, because remember we want to keep the file size low, so this is probably the lowest file size, but it's a little bit too compressed, not looking that great. So realistically, we probably don't want to use that one. We've got this one where the text is starting to look a little bit broken up. This one, the text looks great, but we can see that for the file size, this one might actually be okay for what we want. This one's looking a little bit high in terms of file size. Once we start to look at the clouds, so text, which is quite a simple graphic, and where we've got fine detail around the edges, uh, looking better for GIF, just to keep in mind. When we get to photorealistic images, looking at something with lots of shades in this area here, lots of kind of a gradient or a gradation, we can see that the GIF actually does not handle that too well. It's starting to break up. So in terms of quality versus file size, when we get to the clouds, it's actually not doing its job that well. So essentially we can say, well, the low quality JPEG not doing its job that well with text, GIF not doing its job that well with the clouds. When it comes to actually looking at, well, which ones we go with, we really want to look at file size versus quality. So GIF is actually the highest in file size. So we can see here that it's not really doing that good a job at keeping the kind of information in our clouds area. We've actually lost a lot of those colors. Uh, so it's actually not keeping that same information, because what it's doing is it's actually limiting the number of colors in that image, and so it can't actually reproduce all those tones and shades. I can bump those up and we'll see more of it, but you can see that then my file size goes right up, which is no good, and realistically I can get a similar result with this kind of high quality JPEG anyway at a quarter or a third of the file size. So realistically, if we're looking at that, obviously our text is a little bit worse for wear, but not overly noticeably so, and I could probably push that up a little bit if I wanted to. So I could maybe push that up to about 65, and you can see that the quality is not bad. Remember that we're zoomed in, so anybody else on a web page or a website is actually going to see it at 100%, in which case I would think that, given the file size versus quality, that this one's actually looking the best. The other thing to keep in mind is the download speed or the file size. So 20K is pretty good. If I'm not sure, I can right click somewhere on this area. I can see here that it's set for number of seconds on the 28K modem. So if I'm going to see that on, say, a low broadband speed, we can see that 20Ks as a file size is only about 3 seconds download time, which is pretty good for what I want. I would say try and keep it to about that or up to about 35K for a banner. Once you go over about 35 kilobytes, it's pretty arguable as to what you're doing with your banner that requires more file size. So see here they've got a pretty good looking banner. It's at a pretty good file size. I want to keep it to about 3 to 5 seconds download speed, because my whole page shouldn't really take more than about 7 seconds to load. Realistically, that's kind of the amount that most people are happy to wait. Once you get above that, it's a little bit. You start to wonder, well, why is a site taking this long to load? It better have some decent content on there. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that one to save it. Go in and save it where I want. So I've got my blue sky banner. Let's just do a save. So I've saved that as a high quality JPEG. So you can see that the one with the high detail needed to use a JPEG. On the other hand, if we use this one here, if we come in and look at our JPEGs, and let's just choose a GIF as well, so we can see. Let's go in and again zoom in. So we can actually see that on something like this one, our GIF actually has the smallest file size, and actually has probably the equally the best kind of quality. If we try and match that file size with our JPEG and bring it right down, just so we can see. So if we want to try and match that kind of file size, then you can see that we actually it starts to break up a little bit around the edges, and it really breaks up around our text. So realistically, for something that's only got a few colors, simple graphics, 2D kind of graphics, something that doesn't have a large number of colors, where we can limit that color palette down, that way we can keep our text looking nice. You can actually see that GIF is the winner. So anything that's got lots of fine detail, lots of shifts in color, lots of shades and tones like gradients or photorealistic images, you're probably going to want a JPEG. Something that has simple kind of 2D graphics, or you've just got text, then I would recommend using a GIF or a PNG. I still tend to stick with GIF just because it's been around a bit longer. PNG is still pretty good as well. It's going to be a little bit smaller in file size, but some of the really older browsers won't support it that well. But either one should work fine. Just it's a matter of testing them out. If you want to work with transparency, you can do that with the GIF by ticking this one off or on. I don't need to worry about that because I'm not including any. So I can just select that one and save it. And again, bigskybanner.gif.